This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, and today I want to answer the question, is Michael Saylor lying about Bitcoin? For those of you who don't know Michael Saylor, he's the founder and CEO of MicroStrategy, which really made a big splash in the Bitcoin space when they added a lot of Bitcoin to their balance sheet over the past couple of years. They currently own billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. So this is who Michael Saylor is. I have mixed feelings about making this video. I never want to give oxygen to bad actors, and that's why I don't cover many well-known crypto scammers. I also don't want to get sued, obviously, but I've gotten so many requests to review this article that I thought I would cover it. This is the article. It's by Mr. Whale, back from September of 2021. Here's why you shouldn't trust Michael Saylor: fraud, drugs, lies, insider selling, and more. So who's Mr. Whale? He looks fairly legit, 230,000 plus subscribers on Medium, ranked the #1 Bitcoin blog on Medium. Who knows if that's even true? He calls himself Crypto Whale. But anyway, this is who he is. He does have quite a few followers. So the first question is Michael Saylor a drug addict? Is he a coke and meth addict? This is one of the accusations in this article. And I should say, before I discuss this, I do not know Michael Saylor personally. I also personally don't care if he uses any legal or illegal drugs. It's not really my business. If I were a shareholder of MicroStrategy, which I'm not, I might care to a certain extent. But I don't, obviously don't care about this. Everything in this video as well was taken from publicly available sources as well. So there's no inside scoop here. This is the accusation from Crypto Whale's article. Michael Saylor's coke and meth addiction. After facing extreme losses from his clown show in the 2000s, which we're going to talk about, Michael Saylor disappeared from the public eye and enjoyed his time partying on yachts and doing hard drugs such as meth and cocaine. The first thing I would say is I would hope for America's billionaires that they could find something a little bit better than meth. But here's the accusation. Here's the court document. It includes felony possession of meth, felony possession of meth and a firearm, felony dealing in cocaine, felony dealing in meth as well. So the accusation, the drug charges were that he was actually selling meth and selling coke as well, which is a little bit strange when you think about it. For a billionaire, he probably shouldn't have to go to door selling meth to make a living at that point. Here is the link to what Crypto Whale is linking to. Here's the investigation, and here are the charges. If you follow the other link that's in Crypto Whale's article, you come to this study of the case where this is an appeal, it looks like, from January of 2021, a motion to reduce his sentence and do some sort of compassionate release. Again, this is the exact article and court case linked to by Crypto Whale when he's accusing Michael Saylor of all this. So I scrolled down here and was reading it, and I came upon this paragraph. Mr. Saylor is 39 years old. He has been in custody for about 11 years. He's in custody at the Federal Correctional Institution in Jessup, Georgia. So I would say that we're quite safe in knowing that this is not Michael Saylor, the CEO. There's no evidence that he's in a jail in Georgia. So this is the kind of investigative journalism that Mr. Whale is doing here. This is literally the article that he links to accuse Michael Saylor of coke and meth. So we can say safely that all the evidence, at least that Mr. Whale presents, is completely fake, and it's a different Michael Saylor. If you're finding this video helpful so far, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Maybe share this video with a few friends as well. So the next accusation in Mr. Whale's article: did MicroStrategy's stock crash in the .com collapse? And it did. I remember it very well back from my trading days in the late 90s and early 2000s. It actually spiked from about $30 a share in all of that March 2000 craziness, and went above. It looks like it went above $1,400 per share. And we can see that's never really. It went above, call it $3,000 per share. We can see here that it's never it's never really even recovered from there. It's still, even at the peak, its peak in March of 2021, it was still less than half of where it had been trading before the dot-com crash. Now, this is, for those of you who don't know the history, this is actually very common for a lot of technology stocks. And a lot of technology stocks obviously went out of business. A lot did not. But we can see that even Amazon had a 95% drawdown from the highs. MicroStrategy had a 99.99% drawdown, something like that. And that is correct. This is what is mentioned in the article. Then it really traded nowhere for many, many years before perking up again in 2019 and 2020. So this much is true, though it's hardly an indictment if your tech stock went down between 50 and 100% in the late 90s. On strategy, Michael Saylor went from being a really large billionaire, being worth $13 or $14 billion, to losing quite a bit of money. One of the other parts of this that Mr. Whale, of course, invokes is the SEC investigation, which was announced in March of 2000. The SEC, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, brought charges against Saylor and two other MicroStrategy executives for inaccurate reporting of financial results. They had to each pay $350,000 in penalties and personal disgorgement of $8.3 million. And then they restated the company's results. Now, I will leave this up to the SEC and those who know more about this. This does not look to me like a classic case of fraud. This looks to me more like having to restate something in a way that was more amenable to the reporting authorities. And so the basic debate, and I haven't dug too deeply in this, revolves around whether MicroStrategy had a right to count deferred revenue immediately. And I have to say that these accounting rules were much more free and loose in the late 90s. Part of what happened trying to assuage the public was the SEC went after a bunch of companies for this sort of accounting after the dot-com bust. And so MicroStrategy got involved in this. This does not look to me like true accounting fraud. It's not like a WorldCom. It's not like an Enron or something like that. But it did have the effect of revising their financial statements, and they looked a lot less rosy after this revision. So this was involved in the crash. And as I said, they ended up having to pay all these fees to settle these fraud charges. Now, again, when you pay these fees, you're neither, at least in this case, they did not admit that they did something wrong. They basically just, they settled. And so this remains to be, you can do your own research on this, but to me, it doesn't look like hardcore fraud. It looks more like an accounting treatment that was ambiguous, that was sort of a gray area, and then it subsequently got solidified, and the SEC was looking for some fall guys as part of this. But this is part of the history. This is part of Michael Saylor's history. He does, in podcasts, I've heard him talk about his stock going down 99%. I've never heard him talk about these fraud charges directly, and I would imagine he's not allowed to publicly comment on them as part of this settlement. But you'll have to make up your own mind about this. And if you think he's guilty of something, you also need to make up your own mind about whether 20 years later something like this should be held against someone. But that's for your own analysis. The next charge from Mr. Whale's paper is that Michael Saylor secretly does not believe in Bitcoin and is just using it as a pump and dump. Now, these tweets, as far as I can tell, I seem to remember reading these elsewhere. I believe these tweets back from, call it 2013 or 2014, are in fact authentic, where Michael Saylor says Bitcoin's days are numbered, it has no intrinsic value, it's just a worthless asset, etc. Now, many of us, myself included, had these views about Bitcoin 5 or 10 years ago, or even less than that. And so I don't think it's completely fair to accuse Saylor of being a liar simply because he changed his mind on Bitcoin. And what a change it was, going from hating Bitcoin, thinking it was worth zero, to putting billions of dollars of it and risking your entire company on it. But the accusation from Mr. Whale is even more severe. He is alleging that MicroStrategy is doing a pump and dump with Bitcoin, and the way they're doing this is they're holding it in a subsidiary called MicroStrategy LLC, and I believe this is in fact true. But Mr. Whale's accusation is that they put it in the subsidiary so they would not have to report to the SEC that they're selling any Bitcoin when they pump and dump it. This is absolutely not true. If a company has a sub, it still needs to obviously report changes in ownership, especially something that's as material and as important as this, which is basically the whole future of this company is riding on how Bitcoin performs. So this is the accusation that he's buying Bitcoin just to dump it. There's the accusation that in September, right as El Salvador was beginning to use Bitcoin, and it had actually been made legal tender, this is where Michael Saylor was dumping Bitcoin. He's got a nice little chart here showing these big red candlesticks when Bitcoin tanked back in September of 2021. I would say that this is completely made up, just like the cocaine charges. We have regular reporting from Michael Saylor about the holdings of MicroStrategy, how much Bitcoin they hold. As of December 29th, they still had 124,391 Bitcoin. They've never reported selling any Bitcoin. And this isn't just a tweet from Saylor. This is he links to the actual SEC filing in which you are reporting this to, in which MicroStrategy is reporting this to the SEC. This is not the kind of forum that you want to lie on. And especially if you're a billionaire who's been in trouble with the SEC before, you've got all this money, you've got a nice life to live. Why in the world would you do a pump and dump and lie to the SEC about this, especially because you have accounting firms who are going through the end of every year, looking at your holdings of your Bitcoin with your custodian. And as I've done in a previous article, I don't believe that MicroStrategy is really holding its own keys. It's outsourced this to a custodian. Why in the world would you lie about this to the SEC? And then you'd also have to get your accounting firm in on it. You'd have to get your custodian in on it, etc. It just doesn't make any sense. It's very easy to make a chart like this and add a pink line saying that MicroStrategy sells Bitcoin. But if in fact they did sell some Bitcoin, then Michael Saylor is lying outright in public. He's lying to the SEC, and his accounting firm and his custodian, his Bitcoin custodian, are all in on it. I would maintain that this would be a very silly way of doing things, especially when he's really committed his life to Bitcoin. And if he's going to cheat on something and try to do a pump and dump, it would make much more sense to do it in another area, not an area that has so much visibility. Again, when you hear Michael Saylor talk about Bitcoin, he seems to really love what he's talking about. He's gone very, very deep. And pump and dumpers are not normally, they don't normally operate at this sort of intellectual level. So I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely, basically a 0% probability that Michael Saylor still doesn't believe in Bitcoin and is just doing a pump and dump. It seems like an absurd accusation. And you'd have to ask yourself, why would a billionaire risk so much to potentially have to go through this whole mess with the SEC again and possibly risk going to jail? The final accusation, I'm not sure it's in Mr. Whale's article, but I've heard this from many people. The accusation is that Michael Saylor is some sort of spy or government spook. And the main evidence for this that people present is you look up the MicroStrategy headquarters. They're in a city called Tyson's Corner in Virginia. Here's the address. And then you look up the CIA headquarters, and it's at 1000 Colonial Farm Road in McLean, Virginia. You do a Google map search, and you can see that it's just about 13 minutes away, that MicroStrategy is very close to the CIA. Now, this probably makes sense if you're a software company and you have a lot of government contracts, etc. But this really is not evidence that there's some collusion between the CIA and MicroStrategy. And I would say that if Michael Saylor is a spook, he's a really bad one, because he's turning many, many, many smart people on to Bitcoin. And in the process, he is popularizing Bitcoin, etc. So you'd have to ask yourself, why in the world would the CIA want Bitcoin to become so popular? I'm sure there are going to be people in the comments saying, well, of course, the CIA and the NSA invented Bitcoin. This is complete nonsense. So the NSA, I do believe, did invent the SHA-256 algorithm, which is just a hash function. It's math. It's not, there's nothing hidden in there that was planted by the NSA or the CIA. But if the CIA is working on the side of Bitcoin, it definitely gives me a much higher opinion of them than I've always had. But these are not the smartest people. This is not where you expect innovation to come out of the U.S. government. I can't think of any innovation that's come out of the U.S. government, with the possible exception of DARPANet and the internet many years ago. But if you look at our modern government, it's so dysfunctional. It can't even produce a healthcare website. It's very unlikely that the CIA is behind Bitcoin. Finally, do I trust Michael Saylor? No, I don't trust him, but not because I think he's untrustworthy, just simply because I prefer to listen closely to what he has to say and then make up my own mind. And this is really what has always been the Bitcoin ethos, which is don't trust, but verify for yourself. Again, that's exactly how you should treat my videos as well. You shouldn't trust me. You should verify everything for yourself. And I do provide links to all these YouTube videos so you can see my sources, and if you can decide for yourself if what I'm saying makes sense. Again, I'm not a guru. I get things wrong all the time. I'll remind you of when I was short Tesla for many months. I ended up flipping that position around and getting long, but I did lose money being short Tesla. And I also had a $200,000 price target on Bitcoin for December 31st, 2021. So all of which is to say, I do get stuff wrong. Don't trust me blindly with any investments. I make it public, a lot of what I'm doing. And I would say that my biggest advantage is that I've been doing this for more than 25 years. So I've had the chance to learn from many mistakes and hopefully get smarter over time. But you shouldn't trust Michael Saylor, and you should not trust me as well. You should verify instead. I'll conclude here by saying that I do think that Michael Saylor is a brilliant thought leader in the Bitcoin space. He obviously has a very smart engineering mind. I believe he studied aerospace engineering at MIT. And this is not the kind of background that normal scammers have. I would have to say, in addition, his thoughts on Bitcoin as digital real estate and Bitcoin as digital energy, which I still need to cover in a video, are quite interesting. And the sort of brilliance you just don't see from government officials, you don't see from scammers, and you don't see from pump and dumpers. It's much less common to have these sort of interests and degrees. Finally, I wanted to finish with a fun video that Michael Saylor posted on a tweet that he posted, and this looks legitimate to me, and it's actually quite incredible. It is, I'd say, an example of the American dream. Here's a guy who in 1992 was literally working at McDonald's, has a big bunch of balloons here, looking very young as well, and just a few years later, he was a billionaire. And so I do have admiration for Michael Saylor, and I have a lot less admiration for Mr. Whale after parsing his paper and looking at the links he provides. This is just a character assassination piece, and it's not even a very good one. It's unbelievable the world we live in, where a guy like this would have the #1 Bitcoin blog, if that's even true, on Medium. And so you got to really dig down and not trust most people, I would say, in the crypto space. Anyone who calls himself crypto whale, that's a huge red flag to begin with, because the crypto space is indeed full of scammers. Focus on Bitcoin. That is the real, that's where the truth is, and that's where the most honest people, in my opinion, choose to work. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video, and let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.